looking at the beautiful neighbor he had been spying on for a long time. He was thrown directly off the 100-meter-high building by a man in black. Without saying a word, Dong hurriedly rushed out the door. He followed the other person to the elevator, but the button didn't light up at all. Instead, there was a noise coming from the hallway, so he immediately rushed to the hallway. As soon as he opened the door, he was almost struck in the forehead by an axe from the man in black. Seeing this, Dong immediately realized the killer was getting closer to him. He disregarded the danger to his life. He quickly ran towards the main door, but when he reached downstairs, he found it eerily silent here. What surprised Dong even more was, he searched the neighborhood, only to be horrified to find that not only had the killer vanished without a trace, but even the neighbor's body had disappeared without a trace. I saw a woman being hacked at, and then pushed down from upstairs. The body should be here. What is it? I live on the 26th floor, building C. She lives one floor below me, on the 25th floor, building B. I saw it clearly. 25th floor, building B? No one lives there at all. The key is still at the management office. Dong still couldn't believe it. He quickly had the security guard take him to the woman's place to check. But when the door opened, he was completely stunned. There was no one there. The house didn't even have any furniture. But since there was no one in the house, what was he seeing every night? Could it be a ghost? Friendly reminder. This is the only film, a domestic horror movie that truly has a ghost. The director hides the ghost in the film's chillingly terrifying ending, and successfully tricked all the reviewers. It was able to be released in mainland China. Hurry and watch it with your clueless friends. By the way, when Dong slept, he would always hear strange noises by his ear. After being woken up, he would see a woman on the other side. A white dress, long hair flowing, but her face showed no trace of color. She often paints strange pictures on the balcony. The woman in the painting has half a face. Blood tears are flowing from the corner of her eye. It looks extremely eerie. But even more eerie is this woman. In the middle of the night, she doesn't sleep. Either she's on the phone, or she's eating an apple, or she's combing her hair in front of the mirror. If she's not doing any of these things, she will come to the balcony to enjoy the night view alone. Unexpectedly, the next second, a man in black suddenly breaks into the woman's home. He brutally kills her and throws her down the stairs. And it was from that night on that Dong dreams every night when he falls asleep. He dreams of the scene of the woman being murdered. This inevitably reminds him of the nightmares he used to have back in his hometown. He often had nightmares. But the cause of all this comes from his closest grandmother. Grandma passed away due to an accident. She was buried by the villagers on the back mountain. But on the night before Grandma's burial, the villagers placed her body in the yard. And this scene happened to be seen by Dong. The night was bleak, and paper money floated in the air. It immediately scared him, leaving an indelible shadow. So from that day on, he dreamed of terrifying things almost every night. He would dream of some frightening things. Thinking of this, Dong couldn't help but wonder if the girl he saw every night was related to the village. So he immediately packed his things and returned to his long-lost hometown. It was lush and green here, and the air was very clear. But an abandoned old house by the village entrance particularly caught Dong's attention. Just as he was lost in thought, a sudden thunderbolt struck the sky, directly hitting the house and causing it to smoke. It seems to be foreshadowing something bad. But Dong didn't think much of it. He turned around and went to live at his uncle's house. And on the table beside him was indeed his grandmother's memorial photo. Although his grandmother had passed away many years ago, every time he saw this photo, Dong couldn't help but feel uneasy. The scenes he saw at the funeral seemed to resurface in front of him once again. Thinking of this, he picked up the pillow on the bed and covered his face with it to ease his feelings. Unexpectedly, the next second, he went to eat. Good. Then Dong followed his uncle out to eat. But as they walked, he always felt like someone was watching him from behind. And that very night, Dong had another nightmare. He dreamed of his grandmother's memorial photo. It seemed as if there was an invisible force that instantly woke him up. It's the middle of the night. The old man's memorial photo is placed by the bed. It inevitably makes him feel that some people. So, Dong took down the photo. Then he got back into bed to continue sleeping. But as soon as he turned his head, he saw a woman crying blood tears. She was staring at him with a pale face. That was close. It turned out to be a terrifying dream within a dream. But this time, as he continued to sleep, a ghostly shadow suddenly flashed above him. Even the room was filled with spreading mist. Dong felt that something was off. So he followed the mist, continuously walking towards the village entrance. As a result, without realizing it, he arrived at that abandoned old house. But this place had clearly been deserted for a long time. Yet there was a room with the light on. This couldn't help but make Dong feel curious. So he crouched down to peek through the crack in the door. To his surprise, he saw a graceful woman appeared in the room. But seeing this situation, Dong couldn't help but feel a wave of fear. Because this woman named Xiao Yu is the village beauty that all the men in the village have longed for. Why would she appear in this place? And the way she is drying her hair doesn't look like she just came back at all. Just as Dong was puzzled, suddenly, there was a commotion in the room. He saw a person holding a knife. With a clang, he killed Xiao Yu. Am I dreaming again, right? Didn't I return to Jiuli village? You have been asleep for over 2 hours. Hearing this, Edong finally understood that he hadn't actually gone back at all, but had been at home having a nightmare. It was clearly a dream. So why did it feel so real? Then, to calm her husband's emotions, the wife played a song for him. But as the melody began to play, Edong finally remembered. The little moon I saw in my dream. In fact, she had died more than 20 years ago. At that time, the fair-skinned and beautiful little moon married a man from the village. The couple lived very happily, but a beautiful woman came to the village, and it was inevitable that other men took notice of her. Out of respect for the fact that little moon was already married, they didn't dare to make a move. But then one day, her husband unfortunately died from an electric shock while fishing. The young little moon thus became a lonely widow. Once this news spread, the lecherous single old men in the village immediately saw a glimmer of opportunity, and in little moon's heart, it seemed she didn't want to remain a widow for her husband. Knowing that there were men watching her like hungry wolves, her husband had just passed away not long ago. She still changed into a short skirt, and wandered around in front of those men. That curvaceous figure. Any man who saw this wouldn't be able to stop himself from getting excited, let alone the old bachelors who have been single for a long time in the village. Sure enough, that very night, an old man named Yuan sneaked to the outside of Xiao Yu's window. He originally wanted to see what the woman was doing, but when he lifted the curtain, he saw the entire room filled with spring light. Seeing this scene, Yuan immediately had drool dripping down. He quickly took a drink to steady his nerves, but in the next second, the sound of the bottle hitting the wall just so happened to be heard by Xiao Yu inside the room. Stop. Are you acting like a pervert? I'll call someone. Don't shout, don't shout. Don't call anyone, I beg you. I really like you. Get lost. Under Xiao Yu's relentless pressure, Yuan could only flee in panic. But overnight, Xiao Yu mysteriously and tragically died in her home. Her face was pale and her body was covered in blood. It was 100% a case of murder. As the only person who saw Xiao Yue last night, Yuan was naturally regarded as the murderer by the police. But when they caught Yuan they found that this person had already gone insane. No matter how the police questioned him, he wouldn't say a word, and his eyes were fixed on Xiao Yu's photo. After a thorough search, the police found in the corner of the room the hidden murder weapon, and also discovered that Yuan shoe soles were stained with unusual blood. Seeing this situation, the police intended to ask about the murder weapon and the blood, but Yuan pushed him away and rushed out like a madman. The police exerted a lot of effort before finally pinning him to the ground, but at this moment, Yuan kept repeating that he was not the murderer. It turned out that on that night, after being kicked out by Xiao Yue, he felt unwilling and came back to her house again. However, strangely enough, Mingming clearly saw Xiao Yue lying on the bed. He leaned at the door and shouted for a long time. The other party never responded. Yuan thought Xiao Yue was asleep, so he slowly walked over, wanting to take advantage. But just after he lifted the blanket, he was instantly scared half to death. He saw Xiao Yue lying there lifeless. The bed was covered in blood. Seeing this situation, Yuan hurriedly fled from Xiao Yu's home, and it was from that day on, he lost his sanity and became a madman. Now, more than 20 years have passed since the case, but the murderer of Xiao Yue is still at large to this day. Remembering Xiao Yu's fate, Dong suddenly realized that the woman thrown off the building by the man in black might be related to Xiao Yue. So, to uncover the truth, he came alone to that abandoned old house, which was Xiao Yu's home, but he had just arrived here not long ago. The door suddenly closed. The vengeful spirit of Xiao Yue appeared before him, and in his mind, a childhood memory suddenly surged up. One night, when Xiaodong passed by this place, he unexpectedly saw a man holding a machete and sneakily throwing it into the well. Upon seeing this scene, Xiaodong called the police the next day. After some time of searching, the police actually found a machete in the well. 20 years later, the murder case that shocked the entire village finally had a lead. So Captain Wang immediately mobilized the police to try to catch the murderer as soon as possible. But just as this case had a lead, Xiaodong suddenly encountered an accident. That night, he was sound asleep. Unexpectedly, in a daze, he saw a man wearing a raincoat, holding a machete, suddenly charged at him. Fortunately, Dong reacted quickly. He pushed the man in black away. The man in black realized he had failed. He immediately turned and fled. Dong also picked up a stick and chased after him. But in the next second, the man in black picked up a machete again. He quickly knocked Dong to the ground. The other party's fierce appearance clearly intended to kill Dong to silence him. Fortunately, at this critical moment, Dong's wife arrived just in time. Only then was she able to drive the man in black away. After this incident, Sheriff Old Wang immediately called an emergency meeting, trying to identify the man in black who attacked Dong. But a group of people talked for a long time, yet they didn't come up with any useful clues. In the end, Dong's uncle couldn't stay any longer, so he turned to leave. But at that moment, Old Wang suddenly shouted to stop him. "Teacher Feng, don't go. I still have something to ask you. Don't you have a black raincoat?" "What do you mean? This Hao Dong is my own nephew, but I know you are an alumnus of the 79th class of our county's teacher training college. Coincidentally, Luo Xiaoyue is also at our county's teacher training college. She has studied early childhood education. You two must have known each other for a long time, right? Don't slander me. Many people have such black raincoats. Seeing that questioning was useless. The police set up checkpoints at the village entrance. They interrogated every villager wanting to leave. As a result, they really found someone on a bus. They discovered a man named Lao Zhang. He seems to have a significant connection to Xiaoyu's death. Sure enough, after some questioning, Lao Zhang quickly confessed everything. It turns out that back then, he was just like the other men in the village. He had been lusting after Xiaoyue for a long time. At that time, Xiaoyu's husband had just passed away. He thought about going to talk to her, but when he came here, unexpectedly found, not only was the door open at home, even Xiaoyue was only wearing a tank top and shorts. Upon seeing this, Lao Zhang could no longer hold back his lust. He immediately expressed his love to Xiaoyue. But after hearing this, Xiaoyue slowly walked up to him. Do you think you're worthy? Not a single man in Jiuli village is worth anything. You? A dog of the village chief. Can't even stand straight. What could you possibly do? Can't even take a look at yourself in the mirror. You scumbag. You think I don't know? Your man is dead. You couldn't hold on any longer. You didn't even lock the door properly. You're not waiting for a man. Then who are you waiting for? Peeved. You filthy woman. You filthy woman. With a heart-wrenching scream, Xiaoyue was hacked to death by old Zhang with a knife. She died with hatred in her heart. After death, she became a vengeful spirit, and haunted Adong. Everyday content is blocked. Let him seek justice for himself. But Adong couldn't figure it out for a long time. The vengeful spirit of Xiaoyu. Why was it me and not someone else? Even stranger is that the murderer had clearly already been found. Yet she still appeared before Adong in the middle of the night, scaring him so much that he woke up directly from his dream, until he found something in a box. He came across items from his childhood. Only then did he finally remember everything. It turns out that, although old Zhang was the murderer of Xiaoyu, who was seriously injured at the time, still had one last breath and did not die, until a man came to the house. Only then did Xiaoyu tragically fall victim. But Adong never expected that. The murderer of Xiaoyu turned out to be his own uncle, and the reason he did this was entirely due to their secret relationship. Old Feng and Xiaoyu were once classmates. They would spend time together whether there was something to do or not. As time went on, he developed a liking for the other person, but before he could express his feelings, the two of them went separate ways after graduation. After graduation, Xiaoyu soon married another man from the village. When old Feng found out, he felt resentful. In order to win Xiaoyu, he first staged an accident, causing her husband to be electrocuted to death while fishing. Then, while Xiaoyu was washing clothes, he dragged her into a small grove. But after he calmed down, he felt guilty toward her, so he went to Xiaoyu's house to apologize. However, he didn't know that just a few minutes earlier, old Zhang had already been here. He had beaten Xiaoyu so badly that she was covered in bruises. Seeing that there was no sound from the room, he hurriedly ran inside. What he saw, however, was a horrifying sight. Xiaoyu. Let go. The murderer. The murderer. The murderer. The murderer. The murderer. Let go. Let go. Looking at Xiaoyu, who was on the brink of death, old Feng completely panicked. He knew content is blocked. Even if Xiaoyue wasn't killed by him, at this moment, he definitely couldn't distance himself from it. So he simply decided to go all in. Kill, silence, hide the weapon, then act as if nothing had happened. Continue living his carefree life as usual. But old Feng had calculated everything. Yet he never expected everything he had done was actually seen completely by the young Adong. Witnessing his uncle's ugly side, in Adong's heart, it left an indelible shadow. And because he was the only one who witnessed the whole thing, that's why Xiaoyu's vengeful spirit would keep staring at him relentlessly. Over time, even Adong couldn't tell whether it was a horrifying dream, or if Xiaoyu's vengeful spirit was really by his side. Alright, today's story ends here. Follow me. See you next time.